Hey everyone, picture this. You've gotten a night of clear skies. Your rig is working perfectly and you've captured your subframes and got home just in time to stack your images. You're eager to see the results before you catch maybe about an hour or two of rest because of course you have work later that morning. Or you just like to quickly see the results to decide if you want to add more integration time. In this video, we will be doing some quick processing in PixInsight for people like me, who's always on the go. My name is Sherwin Kashi, and you're watching Astro Island. Okay, great. So we're about to start, and we won't waste any time. So we'll go to File, Open, and we're going to select the image that we're going to process today, which is the Graxpert Nebula, also known as NGC 6334. It's a really beautiful image that comes up just within the core of the Milky Way. So we're just going to expand this a little bit. And I usually like renaming the image. So we double click on this bar right here, and I'm going to rename it as NGC 6334. We click OK. And in order to get just a preview of the image, we click on the STF auto stretch icon right here. And there we go. Now the image is going to look pretty red, or the background is going to look pretty red. That's because we used a one-shot color camera. And with those cameras, the sensors are more like RGB. And of course, I applied a filter onto it as well. So in doing so, of course, you have the image being captured, in this instance, with more red. So the first thing that we want to do is to apply a linear fit. So we go to Script, and my good friend Tony at Hidden Light Photography, I highly recommend you watch his videos. Recently, he has created a lot of really good scripts that are going to help you through your processing workflows. And the first one that we want to do is to use the Astro image primer. So we click on it, we select the image NGC 6334, we select the star correction. Now throughout this workflow, the only paid program that we're going to use is Blur Exterminator. This was created by Russell Crewman and it works extremely well. So I highly recommend everyone to get Blur Exterminator if you're using PixInsight. It costs, I believe, around $100 US. So highly recommend it, Blur Exterminator. The next thing we want to do after selecting the star correction is we want to go down to this bar where it says highest mean. And now in my instance, I always like to select the lowest mean. Now for your image, you can select which one you want and see which one works the best. Now usually for my images, lowest mean works pretty good. So we select these options and we click execute. And what this is going to do now is going to run the linear fit for the image, as well directly afterwards it's going to call on Blur Exterminator and run that Blur Exterminator using star correction only. And of course it's going to do the linear fit under the lowest mean. So we click on execute and let that fire away. That process has now been completed, Astro image primer. So we can close this off. We can minimize this one now. This would be the original. And it created a new image for us called Astro image primer lowest, which of course would be the lowest mean that we selected. And we again do an STF auto stretch. Alright, so now the image has been linear fit. So let me just expand this again just a little bit. I'm going to rename this one NGC 6334 original. And then I'm going to rename this one NGC 6334. And maybe I'll name it Astro Primer as well. Yeah, just to identify one from the other. Right, we click OK. So now we have it renamed as NGC6334 Astro Primer. Now, usually sometimes when you've processed your image, you may have what is called stacking artifacts around the edges of the image. So in my instance, because I use PixInsight auto crop, it automatically cropped those stacking artifacts for me already. So usually, if you need to do the dynamic crop, you go to Process, All Process, and select Crop. Sorry, my mistake, Dynamic Crop. And then from there, you can make your adjustments where you want to remove any of the stacking artifacts available. Using the arrows, let's say for example, like this. You may just want to shrink it at the corners so you can bring it wherever you want it to be. And let's say if you just want to get just the Graxpert Nebula directly and remove a lot of that, you can do it like this, and you click on the check mark, and then this will come up, because of course the image has been plate solved. You're gonna need to do image solver again once you crop the image. I'm not gonna do that. We're gonna leave the image as is because, as I mentioned, it's already been cropped. So what we want to do now is to remove the gradient from the background. There's a slight gradient on this image. So again, another quick tool that we're going to use is one by another great YouTuber and script developer called Franklin. I believe his surname is Marek. Forgive me for mispronouncing your name, but he's popularly known as Seti Astro. So we go to his script, where we go to the menu script, Seti Astro, and we select, where are you, automatic DBE. I usually like to leave everything at the defaults, just so I can see the gradients as well. I don't need to replace the target image. You can click on that if you wish, and we just basically click on execute once we're leaving everything at defaults. And this is now going to remove any of the gradients that exist in the image. Awesome, so that's completed. The gradients have been removed. Let's take a look and see what happened. Yeah, so this is the background. It appears that it may have removed a bit of the nebulosity. That's quite all right. Again, we're just moving quickly just to see how the image would look. But of course, when you're doing it in full detail, you're gonna have to pay much more attention to what's happening when you're using the automatic background extraction from Seti Astro or any of the other background extraction tools. So we can close that off, and now we do an auto stretch on the image itself. And yeah, that looks a little better. The background gradient has been removed. So we can put this aside. And now we're going to be working on this one. The next thing that we need to do now is to run Spectrophotometric color calibration, which will now give the image a more realistic look to what's out in space, the image and the stars. But of course, we first need to get a background. So again, we're using the shortcuts. We go to Script, Seti Astro, and select Find Background. Most times I use everything at default and just select Filter Out Objects, which is more or less basically gonna filter out finding the background from within the image. So for example, sometimes some images have some really dark nebulosity in which this script may perceive or think that it's background. So I usually just select Filter Out Objects, and that works pretty well. And from there, leave everything. Again, we're moving pretty quickly. You can select Slow Search if you wish. Leave everything at Fast Search, and we click on the search button. And that's now is going to run and find a background from within the image. The script has found the background for us. background found, preview created. So we close this off, and there we have it. If we zoom further in, let's just maximize this some more. All right, there we go. It's found this area as background. So we're ready to move on now to Spectrophotometric color calibration, also known as SPCC. I have a shortcut here, but of course we can go to Process, All Process, and select Spectrophotometric color calibration. Now, I don't remember exactly what filter was used, but because of the reddish background, I believe it was the L Ultimate. So as I mentioned before, usually based on the filter, you can get sometimes a reddish background or a green background or a blue background. That's quite all right. You can use linear fit. Some people even use spectrophotometric color calibration, SPCC, directly to help neutralize the background. Either one is fine depending on what you want to do. So we're going to leave everything as is. In my instance, you change it to whatever filter that you would have used. And we click on From Preview. We select the background that we created, that Seti Astro script created, and we click OK. And all we do now is just basically click on this triangle and drag it onto the image to apply all of the settings onto the image. Look at that. That looks really, really good now. So you can close this off. And like I said, this looks much more realistic to what's out there in space. So we can delete the background. We right click on this area and select delete. Up next, what we want to do is to run now a full version of Blur Exterminator, as well as remove the stars afterwards. So basically, if you look at it, the image looks a little bit blurry. So too with the stars. And by running Blur Exterminator in its full capacity, we can now be able to bring out much more details within the image, and then afterwards remove the stars. So again, we have shortcuts available for that from our friend at Hidden Light Photography. So we go to Process, we go to Script, Hidden Light Photography, or HLP, and Star Console. We select the image, which was named as ending in ADBE. We want to do the full star correction. Now, usually the settings that I like to keep is for stellar sharpening, leave it at 0.50, and non-stellar sharpening, I would like to bump that up to about 90. Yep, that seems to be about right. So 90 is pretty good. Again, you can try it out with your image, play around with the settings and see what works best for you. Next, we're going to do the star removal. And if you have the paid software, another paid software by Russell Crewman called Star Exterminator, you can use this here. Again, in this video, we're going to use StarNet++ Linear, which is free and comes with PixInsight, one of the scripts I believe that comes with PixInsight. You can add that script into PixInsight if I remember correctly. So that's more or less it. We select the image, we select full star correction, apply your settings, click star removal, and then now we go to StarNet Linear. Oh, now if your image was already stretched, in that instance we would select StarNet++ non-linear. Our image in this instance right now, it has not been stretched, so we're using StarNet++ linear. And all we need to do now is click on measure full weight half maximum of the selected image and let it do its thing. Star console is complete, and we got a 2-for-1 special whereby it did the full star correction and removed the stars. So let's close this off now and let's see the results. And there you have it. The stars are on one side and the image is on another. How cool is that? All with using one script. So of course, the next thing that we want to do is to denoise the image. So if we zoom in, we're going to see a good bit of noise. So we're going to remove that noise. And if we look at the image, especially within the nebulous region, you can now see it looks much clearer than before. So we're going to move on now to removing some of the noise in the image. So we're going to use Graxpert for that. We go to Process, All Process, and Graxpert. So in this instance, because the image is not that noisy, I would bring it down to a strength of 0.75. Usually the defaults are around 1. So 0.75 in my instance is, should work pretty well. If you have CUDA enabled on your NVIDIA graphics card, you can disable GPU acceleration. I'm still waiting on my graphics card to arrive, so in the meantime, I'm going to leave this enabled for disable GPU acceleration. And all we need to do now is just basically click on this arrow and drag it across to the image. It's going to take a little longer in my instance because it's using CPU processing power instead of the GPU processing power. So of course, with the magic of video editing, we'll be back shortly. So the Graxpert has completed its denoising process, so we can now close that off. Let's maximize this a little bit. And that looks really good. If we zoom in, we can see the noise has been reduced quite significantly. So if we line them up with each other, you can definitely see the comparison. Let's zoom in just a little more for clarity. Right, so you can actually see the difference it makes when you use Graxpert Denoise. And of course, like I mentioned, there are many other denoising tools that you can use. I find that Graxpert at this current moment works really well in terms of if you want something free to use. Definitely Noise Exterminator tops the list. And of course, the stars have been separated from the image. All right, so we have the image separately and we have the star separately now. So next up, what we want to do is stretch the image. Now remember, keep in mind, throughout all of the procedures and all of the steps and all of the scripts that we have used, we were running in the linear state. But now we're going to stretch the image and bring it to a non-linear state. There are so many different programs now available for stretching images. A lot of people use the screen transfer function along with the histogram transformation. Some use the script easy processing suite and they use the easy soft stretch. Now of course, Seti Astro also has his version. So we're going to go to script, Seti Astro, and statistical stretch. And his own usually works really well for my images, so that's why I've chosen to go with statistical auto stretching by Seti Astro. So we select the image, Graxpert denoising, which is what it did as. Graxpert renamed it as Graxpert denoising after stretching it. The target median he's recommended if you're using his program for stretching, you use 0.10 for galaxies and 0.25 if you're using stretching for the nebula or any nebula that you have. So in this case, it's a nebula. So we're going to leave it at 0.25. The curves boost, we're going to leave that at its default. We're not going to do any curves boosting in the stretch. We leave this enabled, normalize. It's going to be a link stretch. And you can also preview it, which is what we are seeing here. So you can see how it looks when it's stretched. And you have the option of bringing it either a stronger stretch, and then you can refresh. And that's really blown out, so you definitely don't want to stretch it too much, which is why he recommended a starting point of 0.25. So let's refresh that. Yeah, so you're going to bring it down to 0.25. We click execute, and now it's going to bring the image from a linear state to a non-linear state. So we click on execute. The stretching program moves pretty quickly. So now it's in a non-linear state. If we can zoom out and see how it looks, we close this off. And now you've noticed that the line that there was a green line that shows that the image is in a linear state. That line now disappears when it has been stretched. So this image is now in a non-linear state. The next thing that we're going to do is apply some curves adjustment, which will help bring out a little more details, some contrast, and some saturation. Now, my friend Chad over at Easy Astro, he likes to use generalized hyperbolic stretch, and he recently launched a video showing the easy way of using generalized hyperbolic stretch. I haven't mastered it yet. I haven't understood or learned the entire video. So for now, we're going to continue using curves transformation. So we double click on curves transformation if you have the shortcut, or you go to process, all processes, and curves transformation. So we clear any settings that may have been applied before. We click on the circle for the real-time preview. And what we want to do is bring out some contrast. So what I like to do is start off by maybe the dark nebulous regions, or sometimes if the image has a background, click on that area and just bring it down just a little bit. There we go. We're already beginning to see a little bit of depth coming in. This area is a little bit bright, so I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. There we go. And maybe this area, bring it up a little bit, so maybe like that. Yeah, that's going to be a little too bright, so maybe if we bring this up and then maybe bring this down a little more. Yeah, that more or less suits it. And what we usually do is an S curve. Now I know this curve is a little bit weird, but that's only because this area has been a little bit blown out. So we want to ensure that this area doesn't get too blown out when we continue using our curves adjustment. So we apply that just a little bit and we click on the apply button. We reset the tool and we can try it one more time, make some further adjustments, maybe just a little bit again. And again, you always want to do everything in small iterations. Small is always a better way to go, rather than doing drastic reductions. Like let's say, for example, just drag it all the way down immediately and then push it all the way up immediately. It's not going to look good. You're going to have a much more difficult time making your or fine-tuning your adjustments. So always in baby steps. So maybe just about 2 iterations of this should be fine. Yeah, just a little bit. Alright, and there's that S curve that we were talking about. See that slight S coming down? So we can bring this down just a little bit more. There we go. And of course, it's bright again. It's a 9.4. It wasn't too bad. So the G and the B went down to 8. The red is 0.94. So we can work with that for now. Maybe just a touch. Just bring this down just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. So we click apply. And the next thing that we want to do is apply some saturation. So we click on the S button on the same curve transformation tool, and we can apply our saturation. Right, so we want to bring it up about just here. You don't want to go all the way immediately. It's going to look really horrible. Again, everything, let me just clear that. Everything in just baby steps. Yeah, that looks good. Alright, so we apply that. Let's see if we can do maybe one more to see how it looks. Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, just bringing out some of the details in the background. Let's apply that. If you go back to the RGB key, clear the tool, Let me see if I can bring out some more details, see how it looks. Where do we want to go? Maybe around here. Maybe bring it down just a touch. Alright. And maybe this area where it can, yeah, maybe around here we can push it up just a little bit, just ever so slightly. Awesome. So we click apply and we're good to go. We're not going to touch that any further. Again, we're just moving quickly. If you have time, you can go into doing much further processing, bringing out much more details. But for now, this is what we call a quick and dirty way of at least getting to see how your image looks. So we close off the real-time preview. And then now what we want to do is bring the stars back into the image. So again, the tool that I like to use is by my good friend Tony at Hidden Light Photography. So we go to Script, Hidden Light Photography, and Stars Back. Pretty simple. So we're going to select on-screen stars, select deep sky object image. In this case, it's going to be the Graxpert Denoising. There we go, this one. And then the stars. Oh, actually what I forgot to do was stretch the stars. Again, I'm so in a hurry I forgot that one. So yeah, we definitely need to stretch the stars before using Hidden Light Photography's Stars Back. So in this instance, I actually like to use Seti Astro's Star Stretch. We go to Script, Seti Astro, Star Stretch. Right, so we select the star mask, select the stretch amount. Oh, we can also preview it, so we can get an idea as to how the stars would look before we stretch it. And we click on Show Preview. Alright, let me maximize the screen so we can get a better look. There we go. Now the default, it's usually 5, and the default color boost value is 1. I like to push it up a little bit based on the image. So for this particular image, I maybe want to bring the stars a little brighter, and that's mainly because there's so much dark and red and deep nebulosity in this particular image. But usually I like to leave the image up about 5, and sometimes if it's a small image with a wide field, I actually bring the stars down to maybe 4 or 3, somewhere around there. But for this one, I want to boost it up quite a lot. So let's see how that looks. There we go, that looks pretty good. And the color boost amount, yeah, I'm going to push it with some nice bright colors, maybe about 150, 175. And we want to move any green that may be available in the image. Refresh the preview to see how it looks. Alright, yeah, looks pretty good to me. So we're going to execute. And now the stars have been stretched. Alright, yes, so there's some of the artifacts from the image from before. But other than that, the stars look really nice and colorful. Awesome. So now we can use Hidden Light Photography's Stars Back. So we go to Script, Hidden Light Photography, Stars Back. Select on-screen stars. Again, DSO image. We select Graxpert Denoising, which is this image, and then the star mask, which is a stars image. And pretty straightforward tool, pretty straightforward script. We click on execute, and there we have it. The stars have returned to the image, and my oh my, that looks really, really beautiful. Let's minimize these so you can get a better look. It looks really nice. So let's compare to where we started off to where we are. And again, this was done pretty quickly. Like I mentioned, it's just a quick and dirty version of processing your image. For those of us who are on the go, we just want to get a quick view as to how the image would look. That would help us determine if we need to add more integration time or make any necessary changes to the image. So I hope you enjoyed today's video and you're able to learn something new. And maybe you can now apply these quick tips and shortcuts to your PixInsight workflow. As you can see, I've already changed my clothes because tonight is a clear night and I'm on the move again. So in the meantime, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, I now have a Patreon account where we can now get some additional tips and tricks and some guidelines to help you learn and grow in PixInsight. So as always, I close off by saying, it's not the size of your telescope that counts, it's how you use it. Bye for now everyone, take care, and I'll see you again soon on Astro Island.